Okay, if we can begin. Today we have a very special lecture. I'm very pleased to introduce Carl Icahn as our lecturer. Mr. Icahn has a career that is really relevant to some of the topics we've talked about in this course. One theme we've talked about in this course is corporate democracy. And we've talked about a book written by Burl and Means, who said that shareholders are so dispersed that they have really no control over a company, and boards of directors are self-perpetuating. Well, Carl Icahn has made a career of really opposing that tendency in American business. Carl Icahn graduated from Princeton University, pre-med, in 1957. In 1968, he founded Icahn and Company. And this company, Icahn and Company, has taken substantial shareholder positions in a number of major corporations, including RJR Nabisco, TWA, Texaco, Phillips Petroleum, Time Warner, Motorola. And when Icahn and Company takes a position in a company, it then becomes active in the management of this company and in changing the way they do business. And they've done this with enormous success. So, Carl, I'm very pleased that you could come and do this today.
Good to see you, Bob.
It would be really nice if you could give some clues to our students here who are themselves launching out on careers of how you got started in this and what your philosophy is and what you would recommend to them.
The career you're asking about, I went down to Wall Street way back in the 60s, and I thought I was really, I had gone to Princeton, a really good school, okay. and I had gotten in there from a tough high school. I was the first to go for my high school. Nobody believed they never took an Ivy League, the Ivy League never took anybody from this school I went to, but anyway, I went, got in and left there, and I thought I was a real smart guy, cut it short, went down to Wall Street, and worked for Jack Dreyfus, and I was playing the market in 1961. That shows how old. And in a bull market, you make a great deal of money by doing leverage. It's a little bit like today with all the leverage that we had, and now might be coming to fruition. But I was borrowing money and bought all these convertibles, and I thought I was a genius. And Jack Dreyfus said, "You're going to lose all your money." I had made a few bucks playing poker, and that's how I started, with about $10,000. And I made all this money by borrowing at 90%. And I would go out, and I was making a lot more in 2 weeks than my father made in 2 years. And my father said, "Well, put the money away." I said, "No, Dad, and I'm going to really make a fortune here." So I went out, I remember once, and bought a Galaxy convertible then. It was a beautiful car. I had a beautiful girlfriend. It was a model. It was just pretty nice. But what happened, the crash came in 1962. I was wiped out in one day. I didn't even have the poker winnings left. And I tell you, I can't recall if the car left first or the girl left first. But it was pretty close. Maybe the same day, actually. And after that, I learned you have to learn something. And I became an expert in options. And after that, I built a following and built a big following and a big commission base by just learning one area very well. Probably I knew that area better than almost anyone on Wall Street. Not to sound too presumptuous, but very few people knew it, so it doesn't mean very much. But in any event, we built up a big following, and in '68 bought the seat on the stock exchange with the help of one of my uncles, and by that time I had saved a pretty big amount of money for those days. And then I got into arbitrage, but not merger, bonafide, and that's something else you can learn, where you can do it. You still do it today, but it's much tougher with all these computers, so I don't do it. Because I don't understand the computers; they're beyond me. So I don't work with them too well. Being a little facetious, but not too facetious. So you could buy different convertible bonds and short the stocks against them. You had no risk, but you could make a lot of money, and eventually we did real well with that. And what I do today still is pretty much the same idea. You buy stocks in a company that is cheap, and you look at the asset value of the companies that you buy the stocks in, and it becomes a little more complex. But basically, you look for the reason that they're really cheap, and the major reason is often and usually very poor management. So in a sense, it's like an arbitrage. You go in, you buy a lot of stock in the company, and you then try to make changes at the company. Today, if you read the newspapers, tomorrow you'll read it. We're trying to do the same thing at Motorola, and if you bother to read the Wall Street Journal tomorrow, or maybe the Times, I don't know, you'll see a little bit of what we're trying to do there. We're trying to get them to change the structure of the company. We think the board is a very poor board there, and we're trying to change what happens. The thing about corporate America, few people that go to college that where you are now, and most people in America don't realize how poorly most of our companies are run in this country, with many exceptions. They're really very poor, and when you get inside the companies, you realize it. And the real reason is there's no accountability. There's no corporate democracy, and I've been saying that, proselytizing it, writing about it. And the reason that we can make so much money when we go into one of these is I'm not even a manager. I never took a course in management, and I wouldn't profess to really know much, but I don't micromanage. I put in a very good manager. They cut the heck out of a cost, but they changed the structure of the companies. And this is the problem in America today, in my opinion, that we are basically undermanaged. We can't compete because the best and the brightest don't get to be at the top of the corporate ladder. And I have a sort of a metaphor that's a little facetious, but not completely, about it. I call it anti-Darwinian. It's anti-Darwinian in America's corporations. And that means a guy goes to college, and this is the guy that gets to be the CEO. And he's in college, and he's the kind of guy that, was the president of the fraternity. Now, all these presidents of fraternities aren't bad guys, but basically, the normal guy that I remembered at college he's always there at the fraternity of the eating club, and he's always there to be there. If you have a bad day, you walk over to the club, and you're feeling bad, your girlfriend left you, you did bad on a test score or whatever, and you go over there, he's always there. He buys you a drink, and you sit around with him, he commiserates with you, you play a little pool or whatever, and he tells you whatever it is. Yeah, my girl left me. Yeah, well, they're all no good, usual conversation back and forth, and what would happen would be you like the guy. You can't help but like him. You used to wonder a little bit, when the hell did he ever do any work? But, he was always there for you. And he never made many waves. He never said anything too obtrusive, or he never showed too much intelligence, but he was a good guy. That same guy goes out into corporate America. And he politically, he's astute. He knows how to get along with people. And he never really rocks the boat. He never comes up with any great ideas. He's not a threat to his superior. And as a result, he moves up the ladder because there really, in corporate America, there's really very little accountability. And what happens in corporate America, he moves up that ladder. There's a good show, How to Succeed in Business, that was out many years ago that sort of sums it up. If you say, if a genius has an idea in corporate America, if the genius has an idea, the next idea is they give him an idea to resign. And so he moves along the ladder, and he gets up slowly up to the top. Now he has two attributes. He's likable, he's politically astute, and he's a survivor, and he knows when he's threatened. and he gets to the top. And this is the attributes of today's CEOs, for the most part, with exceptions. So, he doesn't ruffle feathers. He doesn't get the board upset. And as he moves up the ladder, he finally gets to be number 2 to the CEO. Now, the CEO is the same attributes, where he doesn't want to be threatened and he's surviving. So the CEO will never let anybody be number 2 who's smarter than he is. So by definition, the assistant to the CEO is a little dumber than the CEO. Now, this guy now is the assistant. The board likes him. The CEO eventually retires, and they make this guy the CEO, the fraternity president we're talking about. Now he's now the head guy, the CEO. He'll bring in a number 2 guy that's a little dumber than he is because he doesn't want to be threatened. So by definition, we'll be run by morons pretty soon. And we're not too far from that right now, from that point in our economic history. And so this is a problem that we have. Now, we've been able to do okay in this country and pretty well, even with the fact that we're badly managed. Because over the last 20 years, we've had a pretty free ride. We've gotten from all over the world, the whole global economy has been booming, and we've been able to get cheap goods. And these cheap goods kept us from having inflation. So very simply put, if you don't have inflation, it's easy for the Federal Reserve to keep pumping money into an economy. So money kept flowing. You were sort of at a punch bowl. The country was at a party. And we kept drinking from this punch bowl, enjoying ourselves, and the rest of the world would take our dollars. They would take our dollars because everybody thought, oh, America, it's great. It's a little bit like you came from some town, and there's one family in the town that, doesn't do much work, sort of profligates, lie around the pool, have fun, partying a lot, have the big cars and have the good times, and the rest of the town works hard, in the farms or wherever they are, and they keep bringing stuff to this rich family's estate. They give them whatever they want, they give them food, they give them clothing, but anything, and the rich family just gives them IOUs, and they keep taking the IOUs. So the rich family doesn't do anything, just lie around the pool and have fun and travel or whatever, and everybody's working. Well, one day, a few of these people are going to say, I don't want your IOUs anymore. What the hell am I going to take your IOUs? It's worthless because you lost all your money. Well, our country, think about it, is a bit in that situation. We've been giving our IOUs, which are dollar bills, to the rest of the world and taking their cheap goods. However, we're reaching a point now where the dollar, as you've been reading, if you're attuned to it, the dollar is devaluating as we speak. And we got I believe, a real problem on our hands in the economy. The other thing we've done in the last 5-10 years, and I know Bob Shiller has been talking to you about this, is housing. Housing is like tulip bulbs almost. There was a big crisis in Holland in the 1600s on tulip bulbs, and I like reading about these crises because everybody bought tulip bulbs. Thought it was the greatest. The one guy looks and says, "Hey, what the hell am I doing with this tulip bulb?" And all of a sudden, he had a crisis. Well, and I'm not going to get into the depth of it, but our banks, because they wanted to make more and more money, and our investment banks, Wall Street, kept issuing different paper against mortgages. So it made it simple to give a mortgage. So these mortgages were given out to people that couldn't afford them. And today, you have what you call subprime mortgages, subprime paper. They issued against this paper stuff called mortgage-backed securities. They securitized them. And these things are all floating around now. And there's maybe about $3 trillion worth of subprime and all-day mortgages out there. Well, as you've seen, these have produced crises of confidence. And I don't think we've heard the last of it. The government sort of bailed out the situation by having J.P. Morgan take over Bear Stearns. And I'm not going to get in the depth of it here, but it's a real fascinating story. In any event, we have problems in our economy, and I think that we are going to see more of these problems in the next year or so. I think Bob can talk to you more about what's going to happen in housing, but a lot of it depends on that, because if you can't have your housing prices go back up, a lot of the people that bought them can't afford to pay the mortgages, nor will they want to. If they see the homes go down in value, they're going to just say, oh, they're going to walk away. Now, if that happens, these homes are the collateral from the banks for all these mortgages, and we're going to have, and probably do have already, a recession. And that recession could become a lot more acute, because today, and I'm not, going to go, I'm just going to open it for questions soon, but today there is $6 trillion more of debt in this economy that I believe it can sustain, because everyone, the middle class went on a borrowing binge over the last few years to buy these homes and to buy for any, with the credit cards, and go buy anything they felt like buying. And as a result, I'm not certain that they can pay that $6 trillion back, but even if they can, they're not going to be willing to go buy. They're not going to be willing to go buy more things. So as you have that happening, and you have an inflation, the earnings of our corporations will go down. And they estimate, I've talked to one or two very good economists in the last few weeks, they estimate that earnings of the S&P averages will go down about 20% the next year. Well, with that, the stock market is at I would say, a precipice. You don't know which way it's going to go. So with all that said, you have to worry about all these things, and I know you're studying this and you're learning about it, but I think there'll be great opportunities ahead in the ability for Wall Street to, again, securitize and buy a lot of these companies. If you have capital, you'll be able to buy these bonds. So I do tell you that I think Wall Street is certainly a good area if you're thinking about a career. I still think it's a very good area, but I'm not going to tell you if you love to write or you love to play the cello to go and come to Wall Street. But I do think it's a good career. I think it makes sense. I think that corporate America is learning from this, and I think we're going to make our top managements much more accountable in the years ahead. There are tremendous abuses in corporate America today. Your CEO makes 400 times what the average worker makes, and he's just simply not worth it. And the reason you have this is that you have no accountability, that shareholders simply don't vote. They don't care about voting, and there's a whole reason for that. You have an internecine relation with the owners of a lot of our stocks, which are the mutual funds and institutions that don't like to vote against these managers. However, someone like myself and a few other activists do get a vote now, and we do get a proxy fight going, and we'll see, for instance, what happens in Motorola that we're doing as we speak. And I think that will give an opportunity for young people like yourselves to get into corporations in our country. And while I think Princeton might be a little better than Yale, I think Yale is a good school, and I think that all of you are really probably the top of the student bodies in this country. And going ahead in your lives, I think that the corporations might be a good place to look, or Wall Street for that matter, because I think there's going to be a need for bright people, and I think that you'll be able to be rewarded for it in the fact that there will be accountability again. Well, when I say again, there never really was accountability. So I think there will be a true corporate democracy. Will have to evolve so that we can become competitive with the rest of the world again.